Hey everybody, what's up? Today I want to show you another awesome upcoming PS4 indie game that I've been having a lot of fun with in its current private access state. This game is called Guns Up! With an exclamation mark, and it is completely different from the game that I talked about in my previous video called Drawn to Death, in which that game was a third-person shooter, crazy over-the-top blood, gore, and all that. This has some blood, has a tiny bit of gore. I mean, it's not a ton, just like little splatters, but it's a World War II game that is essentially a strategy game that has you directing AI-controlled troops to attack other people's bases that give you resources and the things that you need in order to build your own base so that you can properly defend it from other people attacking yours. Now, what that means is that this game is pretty much strictly single player. There's no actual multiplayer going on at the same time. Instead, it's asynchronous, meaning you can play against somebody else's fort and likewise them to yours, whether or not you or them are online or offline. Now, some of you might be wondering, how is it a strategy game if all of the units are AI controlled? And they are. Both units from the attacker's side and the defender's side are all completely controlled by the AI. There's really nothing you can do to influence their movements or attack patterns aside from a couple of things, and this is where it becomes a strategy game. As an attacker, you have these attack cards, which all have different abilities, like a bombing run, which, when activated, takes a plane onto the battlefield to drop bombs all over the enemy units and fortified encampments in order to do a lot of AoE damage. You have some cards that will prop up a decoy that looks like one of your troops, and all of the enemies will be forced to shoot at it for a little while. That's a lot of fun. You have mines that you can place down. I've seen those attack cards. Some other attack cards apply buffs to your units, like 10% more health, 15% more fire rate or more damage, or you could find attack cards that have debuffs that apply to the armies of the bases that you're attacking, like slower movement, less health, things like that. Part of the strategy in attacking other people's well-fortified bases is being able to choose a handful of attack cards to bring with you from the get-go. Whenever you start any attack mission, you always get 3 somewhat randomized attack cards to help you out. But oftentimes, that may not be enough, so you have to bring some more with you to help even the odds. Because some of these defenses, like the one you're seeing right now, they're rather dirty in the way they set them up. They usually, most defense bases that are good, I find, focus on choke points, forcing the AI to move through tight corridors and then just hammering down onto that single corridor with all of the firepower of your base. Overall, though, as the attacker, you take a much more active stance in a fight because you're directing your units using your attack cards to deal with the enemy. Whereas a defender, you don't do any of that. You're not there when you get attacked. And in order to deal with that, you have to build a base ahead of time that can deal with anything that an attacker could throw at you. So oftentimes people will be really creative in how they create roadblocks or funnel enemies into a small area so that they can mow them down, or just set up their base in a way that takes advantage of the AI's pathways to either slow them down or choke them up, or just completely demolish them using brute firepower. For example, I have attacked bases that stretch out as far as the base allows you to stretch out because they upgraded their main base, but not necessarily their fortified bunkers. So you'd fight like one bunker every 15 feet or so, and that was supposed to wear down my units over time. But I mean, that it didn't. I beat them pretty bad. And then you have other bases that focus on a small area that has you funneling your units like zigzagging through the same path, and it's really hard to get through because they used a ton of roadblocks and barriers to impede the progress of your units, and then they would just use a ton of mortars and rain down hell just all over, and I don't think I beat that particular base. It was pretty tough. But I'm sure I could have beaten that base if I had chosen different attack cards to bring into battle with me, or if I had spawned different units, because as the attacker, you can choose who you want to spawn and what you want to spawn as long as you don't hit your unit cap. So when you're attacking, if you spawn nothing but the weakest units Yes, they're the cheapest and you can spawn more of them, but they're really weak and they die really fast. So you'll want to kind of mix in some of the weaker units with some of the stronger ones, where the stronger units are only 1 unit compared to the 6 in a squad, but they're so much tougher, and they could do special things, like they could heal, or they could snipe, or they have a bazooka on their shoulder that can take out armies worth of units in one blow. Guns Up does feature a dynamic time of day, so oftentimes when you're building a base or when you're attacking, the time of day will be different. It'll be night, or it'll be during twilight hours, which is why it's like everything's purple here, or it'll be during the day. There aren't any weather effects in the game yet. I feel like they could do something like that whenever they wanted to. Graphically, the game is very stylized. It has a very cartoonish look to it. There is a little bit of gore. Some of your units might lose limbs, or they might display a little bit of blood. Like I said, it's nothing crazy. Technically, the game looks pretty nice. You know, you've got some glow effects on explosions and fire, and the physics are pretty good, especially when you blow up bases and when you blow up fortified bunkers, things like that. It looks pretty nice. If there is one caveat that I have with the technical aspect of the game, it's that the frame rate leaves a lot to be desired. It's capped at 30 frames per second, like most games on the consoles nowadays, but it drops all the time, especially when there's a lot of heavy effects on the screen, you have a lot of physics going on, and no matter what game mode you're playing, the frame rate can drop into the teens, into the low teens at times, depending on how much stuff is going on, to the point where they will just start taking away effects, like the mortar shells dropping down. You can't even see the mortars anymore when the frame rate gets that low. So it's something I hope that they work on. It's not a deal breaker in any way, because the game doesn't require you to be super fast with reflexes, and like if this were a normal real-time strategy game where micromanaging and macromanaging are key to victory, yeah, super low frame rate would kill you. But in a game like this, it's more about like watching what your units are doing and reacting in kind, as opposed to the other real-time strategy games where you have control of everything. The cool thing about having your own army in this game, though, is that you can customize them with different hats, change the color of said hats, and change the uniform color of your entire army. Now, some of these colors they give to you for free, some basic colors, army colors, things like that, whereas other colors you have to buy, things that are more vibrant or shiny or just really saturated colors. You have to spend a little real money on, but that's kind of a given that this game I perceive will be a free-to-play game. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be free-to-play. So that said, there is a cash shop, but they don't offer anything of immediate power. The most egregious offense of this cash shop is that they offer card packs from the depot, which are essentially randomized collections of attack cards and other cards that you can insert to your own troops to augment their abilities. And while these cards themselves aren't inherently really strong on their own, if you get enough of each kind, specifically the ones that you use to increase your troops' abilities, you can combine them. And there's 4 tiers. You have common, rare, epic, and legendary, and of course, the higher you go in those tiers, the more potent said augmented card will be for your troops. So I could see someone who maybe spends, maybe a couple $100 and gets all of the epic card packs that has at least one guaranteed epic in it. I could see them maybe getting a little bit of an edge, but it's still, a lot of it relies on how well you built your base, what your defenses are like, and if the attacker gets lucky and has a couple of attack cards drop for him from killing your own units. Because when you kill units in the game, there's a chance that they'll drop an attack card of a random variety. So, a lot of it comes down to chance. As for your own troops, as you build up resources for them, you can unlock more and more perk slots, up to 3, and mix and match different augmented abilities to cover some of the weaknesses or bolster some of their strengths. And they also have medals, which are objectives, and once you complete these objectives, you oftentimes get a permanent buff to said unit in both attack and defense modes, which are quite nice, and that rewards people who play longer than others, and I am okay with that. And finally, there is a mode where you can defend your base actively instead of attacking, called CPU Defend, and you have to use your base to defend against endless waves of AI that throw harder and harder enemies at you, and every 30 seconds you get a pretty nice reward. Once you've unlocked that reward, however, you will just get regular amounts of munitions in a variety of amounts. But it's a great way to test out your base using sniper towers, bunker towers. You've got mortar cannons, you have anti-air turrets which shoot down incoming attack card spawns, and it's just a lot of fun. Overall, guys, the game is a lot of fun. I hope you get access so you can try it. It's a blast. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe for more. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.